Welcome back, everyone. We are back on YouTube and LinkedIn with another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into proven leadership idea, game-changing strategies, and of course, we hear from the brilliant minds behind them. My name is Josef Martens, and I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today. With us today is Daniel Lakier. Daniel is the Chief Evangelist with Myriad 360, an IT services and IT consulting business. Before that, he held other tech leadership roles for various organizations, and today we're thrilled to have him with us. Daniel, it's a pleasure to have you here in the conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. So, Daniel, the topic is leadership, and it's not just established, you're successful on your journey. When you reflect on your own progression as a leader, what do you think are some of the ingredients for the success that you've had?
Yeah, it's not a simple question. And I think many of the things that have happened were intentional, and many of the things happened because I was put in positions where I didn't have a choice but to grow.
Okay.
And I think actually some of those are probably the most important, because what happens with most people, we set out on a journey and we have a role, and we get very comfortable in that role. And that role has certain responsibilities and things we do on a daily basis. But when you become a leader, it's not always neatly defined. This is what you have to do. Sometimes somebody has to do something that doesn't actually apply to somebody else. Somebody has to take that responsibility on.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to go into business relatively early on, and my partner at the time I had a personal relationship with him beyond work. And the problem was, when things came up that I felt uncomfortable doing, or that I'd never done before, I thought I would never do in my life. If it had just been me, I might have said no. If I'd had a job, I wouldn't have done them. But because of my relationship with that person, I knew I had to do them. I had to sort them outside of work. And that forced me to get out of my comfort zone. And I think that's really probably the biggest thing that ever happened, was getting out of my comfort zone. Everything else came from that. I mean, obviously, having the right character, you want leaders with good character. Not all leaders have good character, but you want leaders with good character.
Yeah.
So some of this starts when you're small. Education system, I think the trick isn't being able to answer by rote a question, but having critical thinking. So if you tie your ability to move out of your comfort zone, have critical thinking, and bring the right ethics with you, I think that's what we want from our leaders. And I thank my parents, and actually my partner in my first business.
I really like that idea of the partner playing a role there, and I'm trying to extrapolate from what you're saying now, and wonder if there's a general rule in there. And maybe the idea is finding someone who keeps pushing us, finding someone who keeps challenging us. And I know you didn't say this is the intention behind that relationship now, right? But I wonder if there is some merit to doing something like that. What do you think of that, Daniel?
I think very much. I was also fortunate in those, in that same goal. My partner, having someone that will help push you and support you at the same time, and
Yep.
is critical.
Yep.
And I've seen it with leaders I've had through my life, and I've had it expressed to me from people that have worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
That it all depends. A lot of your employees' happiness, a lot of it depends on your leadership style. Not all people like the same leadership style, so pick your people well.
Yep.
But if you find the right person that thrives under your leadership style, and I think empathy, having them believe that you actually are invested in their success, that as a human and as an employee, that tends to it builds employees that would walk across the desert for you.
Yep. Yep. Great. Let me take a look at your journey from a different perspective. I'm sure, in addition to your partner, you had other trusted advisors, mentors, role models, or people who were by your side during your journey. When you reflect on the interaction with those, what is something that stayed with you from them? What is something you've learned from them? What is something that was important to you?
So there's been a couple of professional organizations I've been a part of, but one thing that they tended to all have in common was this idea of a forum. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept, but having a group of people that come together that are peer level people,
Yeah.
and where the basis for the group is confidentiality. So you come together from different organizations and you get to share your experiences, your challenges, your opportunities, and you're sharing with a peer group who's probably someone in that peer group has had that challenge, that opportunity, or whatever it may be. And that doesn't mean they're always successful, but they can tell you what didn't work sometimes. And sometimes they can tell you what did work. But the idea is to have a sounding board where there's probably someone with some experience.
Yeah.
And the only way that works is you have to then share your experience together. But that I've at different parts of my career, that has been a very important part of my journey.
Yeah, got it. And Danny, let me just say a word to the audience here, because you and I didn't talk about this before. The Tech Executive Club at its core is a peer advisory group. So to the audience, I didn't pay Daniel to say this. We did not pre-arrange this, and I could not agree more with what you just said there. Yep, there's a lot of value in that kind of relationship. Going back to your leadership experience, tell me about a situation where you were surprised by something that happened. Again, in a leadership situation, right? You had a clear idea going in, you had an idea how this might play out, you had a plan, and you started executing on that plan, and something totally different happened.
So I can tell you that one thing that I had an employee early on that I'm still very good friends with. I love the gentleman. He came in from a partner. He had worked hard. He was in sales for one of my teams, and he was really good at getting into companies. Really, the right type of companies. He would identify the right people. He would meet the right level. Would get the opportunity at the right place, and then he would always manage to torpedo his own opportunities right at the 10-yard line. Like
Okay.
we're about to close, and and he'd do things like he would send a letter to the CEO of the company, and if you don't buy this today, your partner got the other company around the corner got hacked, and you'll be hacked too. And then you copy the CFO, and so you would try and you'd figure out, well, I really liked his work ethic because he was great. He always helped everybody else. He just had this flaw. And so I kept trying to move him into different roles where he'd be away from that. And then I would try and help, because he was the type of person I thought I wanted in the company. But what I learned is everything I did made him more resentful. And because I made him more resentful, he wasn't happy in the company. Everyone knew he wasn't happy in the company, and he became a cancer. And so I think you need to be very careful about being put in a position where we think we're doing something good, but really what we're doing is breaking somebody down. And in the end, we parted ways. It's interesting for me. The best thing I could ever have done for him was to let him go. Yeah. He feels the same way. We're still very good friends. In fact, I hired him later on for a different role in a couple of times. But that was probably eye-opening for me, because it's not something you grow up with. If you come to somebody and you try and help them, there's the other person on the other side. How does what you think is helping somebody, is it actually helping them, or is it breaking them down? Yeah. And that was hard for me to try and remember, to look at things from a different perspective sometimes.
Interesting. And in the moment, often it doesn't seem like the best course to part with someone, right? It feels like that may even be more detrimental to that person, or more hurt.
On a personal level, I thought I was doing something really horrible, but what I've come to realize through that whole thing is, if it's not working for me, and we've been in a period of time, it's probably not working for the other person either. Letting them go was the best thing I did for him, was give him an opportunity to find something that would work for him. And I did help him. But that was a hard lesson. It's one that stuck with me. There's been many, many other lessons, but the ability to affect someone's life personally, is probably the biggest responsibility I think you have as a leader.
Interesting.
And so taking it with enough gravity is important. And I couldn't see how sometimes making a hard decision actually the best thing, not just for the company, but for the person. And it is the right thing for a company to let someone go sometimes. The company is like a body. If the body gets ill, you get an infection in your arm, you can treat the infection. But if you don't treat the infection, your whole body dies. That's a really hard thing for individuals coming in. It should never be easy to let someone go. But on the other hand, you have to consider the whole entity, as with a lot of decisions in life.
Yep. Yep. Now, Daniel, we spoke about the past of your journey. Let's take a look at today. And again, questions about your leadership journey, not about companies or positions. When you look at where you are today, what do you think might be next for you in terms of your growth? What's an area where you feel there is room to grow, or this is something I want to focus on, or there is something I can benefit from? What's an area that you're focusing on right now?
You know, it's I'm not sure I'm going to try and answer the question correctly. If I go off path, bring me back.
Okay.
I think what I enjoyed through my career is always everything I've done. Before I got into technology, I thought I wanted to be a minister or a teacher. And the reason I thought I wanted to be a minister or a teacher is I thought I'd be able to do the most good. I thought about molding a person you can mold people as a parent or as a teacher, and a few other times. But in general, those are the two most likely places to mold people, and our children are the future. It didn't work out that way, but I've consoled myself because everything I've always done, I've always felt like I'm teaching or helping. So if people, what do you do for a living? Well, are you working for a company where you're designing technology? No, I'm helping all the people that work here. Are you in sales? Yes, I'm helping all these other companies because I'm bringing them solutions. My employees are the same. But I think what's next in my journey, and I love what I do. I love technology. I love the people part of technology that I'm in as well. But I think mentorship is really what I have. I want to help the next generation. I think it's becoming harder and harder. When I look to the future for people just coming into industry, it's very murky for me. It's not murky for some people, it's murky for me. Because I see things like AI. And yes, AI is not replacing senior roles, but it is replacing a lot of junior roles. Well, if you don't have junior roles, then how do you get mid-level roles? If you don't have mid-level roles, how do you get senior roles? Eventually, senior people retire. What do our children do? I used to think it would be that we do manual work, but if I look at robots today, and I'm like, well, a robot's expensive, but it works 24/7. Yeah. You can program it to do different things. So we're at a place where the world really, we're at it's, I don't know, we're at a very interesting point in time. And I think that the most important thing we can do for people now is to help them see a future, help them know how to take the steps. I can tell someone go get a job, but if they don't know how to write a resume, they don't know how to reach out to people. That's a problem. We have to show people, we have to help them to believe that there's still something they can do. Then we have to help them with this every step along the way to get there. And some of these things are simple to us because we grew up in a different time. We had good parents. We had an environment that helped us. This is not the same for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about we need to teach them how to write a resume or how to do certain things. And there's also a teaching of why to do something, I imagine.
I think my wife she's on a similar journey, probably the reason we got married. And she decided to write a book around this process. But when she was doing it, she said, I look at the inner city. And if you look at people in the inner city, we have a problem, lots of problems. People tend to be stuck in the cycle. You're born into certain areas and you never get to leave. And you never get to leave is not because there's not opportunity. It's because you don't believe you can get out. Because you look around you and there's no role models. The role models are not the role models you want. There's a lot of role models in sport. There's a lot of role models in the people, other people are successful at doing illegal things in the past, not in total, but in large part.
Yeah.
So how do we get people that grow up in that environment to believe that they can be more?
That's it.
And then just getting them to believe is one thing. Okay, you can be a doctor.
Yeah.
Great. How do I become a doctor? Well, that starts with you have to actually get good grades in school. We blame education for children's grades, but that the school doesn't do everything. People have to go home. They have to have an environment. They have to have someone who can help them. Once they've done that, then they have to know how to apply to university. It sounds simple, but it's not. Then once you've got into the university, what do you do then? And so all along our way, we need mentors. Today, when we think of things like, and the mentor's not always the right one. I'm somewhat successful in technology. Am I the right person to tell somebody who's coming in their first year how to be successful in, I don't know, sales or selling technology? Maybe, but wouldn't somebody who's 4 years in and has been successful for the past 4 years know better how to tell someone who's coming in for the first time? I haven't truly cold called people, I don't know how long. Okay. I know enough people that I usually know somebody who knows somebody. But when you're brand new, it's not the same journey.
Yeah.
And so, I think that this whole idea of mentorship and paying it forward and critical thinking is what, if we want society to continue to be successful, we want to raise up society, I think we all need to figure out a better way to pay it forward.
Yeah. And I think you're spot on with the point that it starts with the belief system that someone has, right? If someone believes there is no way out of a certain situation or no way to attain a certain goal, then the best advice on how to do it will not do it, because they will undermine themselves through their belief system. Yeah. Let's take a peek into the future, Daniel. And I know you already said it's murky. We don't have a crystal ball, but let's speculate. Let's say we were to have this conversation again in 5 years, and we are reminiscing about the last 5 years, how things have changed, how the good times are over now. What do you think we'll be reminiscing about? What do you think the changes will be in 5 years in leadership? Not technology, in leadership.
I hope that our leaders are still, to some extent, people-centric, even with all the technology. And I say I hope, because if I look at if a lot of the younger generation today doesn't like using the phone, they like texting, they like email. This doesn't build relationships the same way. I think that communication, in face-to-face communication, which was disrupted by COVID, and then voice communication and video communication is very important. It allows me to see a person as a person. Yeah. And I think when you don't have this type of communication, the people become less. And so I hope that society still continues to have a people-centric approach to technology. I mean, to leadership, not technology, to leadership.
Yeah.
And that technology, what I described earlier is my fear, where I say it's murky and this could happen. But I think there's a different route we can take, where everybody, instead of replacing people, that technology makes us more productive, and that all of society becomes wealthier, both and wealthy don't mean just in financially, but wealthier in culture, wealthier in opportunity, wealthier in all things, and things that we couldn't attain before, like reaching to the stars and Mars. Those things become real. That will take people who look beyond financial profit. We have to think about what's best for society, because we talk about different utopias today, and one of the utopias, we don't do anything. But if people are not working and but they still have a good living, there's no purpose. When people have no purpose, very bad things happen. We don't need that. What we need is people to put society first, use technology to enhance what we have, and that will take people who are continually people-centric. I don't know if that answered your question, but and it's hard. It's going to be really hard, because other organizations are not going to put people first. They're going to put profits first, and they're going to use technology to be the opposite of people-centric. And while this might look good in the short term, and it would look good for financially, it look good on the Wall Street, it'll look good all over the place, long term, it may not be what's best for society.
Yeah.
And it's not because of we won't all have houses and food. We won't have purpose.
Yep. Daniel, let me ask you a last question before we wrap it up. When you look at how many leaders lead at the moment, especially in tech areas or in tech organizations, and you could give them some advice, maybe even have a magic wand and can change something about how they lead, what advice would you give them? What change would you want to make?
If I could do something today, and I have this is something I wish I could change in myself.
Okay.
And I try every day, but I do it bad. I don't think I do a great job. But I think it would be, when you see an action, the only thing we can change in the world, there's only one thing we can all change.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take money, and is our perspective. So when you see something and it's out of character for somebody, try and see it from their perspective. Try and change your perspective try to take the most positive view you can. Sometimes it doesn't mean don't take the negative view too, but try and say, what could this been? What could the intention have been? Because sometimes, and all of us like us, emotion gets involved, and we see something happen, and it's hard to assume the best. We want to assume the worst. But I would like us to all be able to assume the best and try and see things from a different perspective.
I like it. There would be a lot of benefit seeing things from someone else's perspectives, really being able to step into their shoes. Daniel, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you in the conversation today.
Thank you, Joseph.
To everyone else, sorry, go ahead, Daniel. Do you want to say?
No.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's all right. To the audience, remember to share, like, subscribe. Join us again for the next episode of the Top Innovator Series, and most importantly, keep your brain cells active.